there's a bunch of guys who invest in copycats that just look juiced up. And this is why you have so many L2s. This is why you have so many prediction markets. This is why you have so many meme coin launchpads. This is why you have so many AI tokens. They all do the same thing, and everybody would be better off if they were all on the same pirate ship. But instead, a lot of people want to sail their own dinghy. I have no desire to ever sail my own dinghy into a sea full of pirate ships. It doesn't make any sense. You're not going to win.
Chaos Labs, the leading on-chain risk management firm, recently launched its new flagship Oracle product, Edge. Edge delivers integrated, high-precision risk and price data for any application with a market. Follow and reach out to Chaos Labs on X to learn more.
What's up, guys? Just want to tell you a little bit more about Fuel Labs and their new Ethereum L2 Fuel Ignition. So Fuel Labs is launching Fuel Ignition, a high-performance ETH L2 powered by their Fuel VM. With the launch of Ignition, the team is also launching Phase 2 for their Fuel Points program to reward users and promote growth. Make sure to check out fuel.network to learn more. Nothing said on 0x Research is a recommendation to buy or sell securities or tokens. This podcast is for informational purposes only, and any views expressed by anyone on the show are solely our opinions, not financial advice. Boccaccio, Ryan, and our guests may hold positions in the companies, funds, or projects discussed. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of 0x Research. Today I'm joined by Smac, who's a partner at Compound VC, and Tervo and Tolks from Page One to talk about potentially the best week of my life. What's going on, guys? How are y'all doing?
Welcome to the show, baby. Welcome to the show.
Doing good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, wonderful.
Tervo, you gave an intro last time you were on, but Smac, do you want to give a little background on yourself, on Compound VC, and how you got into the space?
Yeah, sure. I'll try to keep it short. So I had like a TradFi background, structured credit trading, and just a roommate of mine traded foreign exchange. And so like found digital currencies through him. He moved to Hong Kong. I was like, damn, that's pretty intense. Like I should spend more time on this stuff. Got crypto pilled incidentally by ETH, like smart contract stuff. And then, have been around crypto since 2015, was a lurker on Twitter. COVID happened, started tweeting some of the things I thought. At some point, Mike from Compound and I started talking about, random crypto stuff because they were doing that and they were doing a bunch of other deep tech stuff. And so we were like, hey, does it make sense for me to kind of like run a bunch of the crypto investing there? Just because he was spending more time on other things and still found it interesting. So accidentally fell backwards into crypto and then accidentally fell backwards into venture. So joined a couple years ago, and we do a bunch of deep tech stuff. I spend probably 95% of my time on crypto. So it's a bit about hopefully a quick TLDR.
No, it's perfect. I think you have the most experience in crypto here out of everybody else.
I'm the crypto boomer.
When did you get on chain, Smac?
What
year?
Year probably. Like I'm trying to think. Probably, definitely 16, maybe 16, 17, I think.
Boomer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I lost so much money in a lot of the OG. I was one of like the 10 people who used Augur Rec.
Oh man!
Before it turned into like assassination markets.
And now we have Poly Market, full circle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm not even familiar with that lore.
Yeah, it was like the OG prediction market thing, and then it got a little dark.
I did not know it had assassination markets.
They had to shut that down quick. But yeah, it's funny just that you brought that up because I'm a known not Poly Market hater on here. Just I saw you tweet this weekend smack about the open interest going down. And I was just not hating at all. I love what they built. It was amazing attention on the space and everything. But I will definitely be watching the volumes and OI over the next couple of weeks now that we have some calm.
Yeah, I thought that was like the Poly Market stuff is cool. I think prediction markets are really interesting, but I just don't. I don't know. I struggle to see, how you maintain adoption without some like different product or like mode of getting people to engage regularly with it. Yeah, whether that's like designed as some type of news feed or so, like I don't know what it looks like, but yeah, I'll be curious to watch that for sure.
Yeah, I agree. If we want to go off on a little poly market here to start, I tweeted it, what, 6 days ago. The token sector for prediction markets is still wide open while its undisputed greatest buoy meets expiry. Next time activity systemically spikes, will it be on Polygon? I'd take the field. Will innovation to maintain interest come from the largest player on Polygon? We'll see. I think there's a lot that can be done with prediction markets. I've talked to my friend Happy at Happy Substack, really good brain, about different things that could be done to proliferate interest. And it's really like, I see it in like 5 years when you're watching like the League of Legends nerd tournament or Satstar is watching you know, Counter Strike,
CS:GO.
yeah, CS:GO World Tour, like there are going to be lines right next to the video,
Yeah.
and it's going to be sold as prediction market because that's what's legal.
See, that's what I think as well. But the volume that is like influencer or like gaming related is so
Right.
low.
Yeah, and that too is like they, because you could put prediction markets on Twitch streams on Tim the Tatman playing Call of Duty. How many kills is he going to get in this match of what's it called? I don't know. And it's going to be really interesting just because like we've already seen cases of lines that are very obviously manipulatable, you know? And it's like Tim the Tatman playing Call of Duty on stream, like we're gonna get into some really interesting water.
Yeah, I think that's true. I kind of agree with both of your guys' view on like what that looks like in the future. The thing that like I don't know if you read or have seen like adjacent news, which is something that
Yeah, they're dope. Super
yeah,
dope.
what's it, Nate, I think his name is, or OX.
Yeah, they're, and so adjacent news, shout out them. They're a prediction market aggregator. They do a bunch of work in that stuff, really good stuff.
Yeah, it just feels like that at least to me, like okay, what do people do every day? They don't go to Poly Market to bet. They not everybody, but like is there a way you can capture like a larger audience who does something every day, whether that's like read the news like a boomer or do something else? Like how do you get these things in front of people in their like everyday activities easier?
Right, and I see it taking, disguising itself, basically. It's not going to tell you, welcome to the prediction market. It's not going to tell you, welcome to the gambling book. It's going to ask you something very normal, and you're going to answer very normally.
Yeah, I agree with that vision. It's more, yeah, about reducing the friction and having it just in the normal flow of users. Um,
You, go
Go
ahead,
ahead,
Tolks.
Doc. No,
I
I
was
was just
gonna
gonna.
say, you know who kind of does this? Sorry,
Adorable, right there.
Drift.
Drift.
Like they have bet, and I assume they're gonna implement blinks into it, and try and launch it into whatever, like Twitter or something. I agree with you, Tervo. I think they'll make it as easy as possible. And like,
Yeah, and it's really like it aligns with the financial nihilism type beat just because I mean, dude, like I was at a show on Friday night and I'm standing next to my buddy and he looks at me and they're like, dude, we gotta get the bets up. And they're just like firing like $25 lines on like on like college football or basketball games. He looks at me, you go, you gamble? I said on sports? Eh.
Yeah, it's the drift like bet like what you said, Bach. I mean, integrating that with blinks like directly to Twitter, like stuff like that is. I mean, you can see where it's going to end up. There's a lot of work to do to get there, but that's kind of ultimately the vision I see. So whether it's drift or Polymarket or Jason News, like you kind of have to work it into the normal flow of users versus having the standalone site and app. I mean, I think that's where we're eventually headed.
yeah. All right. It's Hyperliquid Day. I want to hear, where do we think it launches? I want to hear. I know Tolks is a Hyperliquid, but I don't know if Tervo, Smac, you guys are interested in the product at all. So I want to hear your thoughts on it. And Yeah, do you think it dies out? Because typically perps kind of die out after the airdrop.
Yeah, I mean, that would be my default assumption, just going off everything we've seen previously. I mean, there was Vertex
I thought
and
you're the Hyperliquid bull.
no, I mean, I like Hyperliquid. It's a great product. But I'm just, realistic about the way that these things generally trend once, points end and the airdrops out. But I will say, I mean, you can look at their volumes the past week, 2 weeks, since points ended, and I mean, TVL's up, but that's, just a function of generally prices going up. But I mean, the derivatives volume in total is, I mean, it's still up and, approaching highs. So I think there's some signal in there. Just because, like I said previously, I mean, you can pull up any chart of, I mean, people have tried to make, these perp dexes a thing for a long time, and the you can generally pull up on DeFi Llama, their volume, and you can point to the exact week or day where the points program or incentives ended. And I will say that we haven't really seen that so far in Hyperliquid. So it's early, but it's a good sign.
I kind of agree. I mean, I think Hyperliquid's this like the product is great in my opinion. And so what degree does it fall off? I'm sure there will be like there's some people who are literally just farming it and then don't really care. But I don't know, if you talk to people doing like a lot of volume on there who actually like using perps, my sense is that yeah, people just like the Hyperliquid product way more and are like way more bullish on go forward. I mean, obviously they're a little bit incentivized to feel that way, but
Yeah.
I actually do think, yeah, you see, like, I don't have, I'm not smart enough to be like, oh, it's going to drop off X%, but I think you'll see sustained volume, like post, uh, yeah, incentives and all this stuff and post airdrop.
Yeah, and so I haven't used the product. I'm not a perps trader. I've never used leverage in my life. But I think it's very clear that it's a good product. And right now, there's still too much left to be defined to really make any projections about what's going to happen. Like whether or not there's going to be, I've seen people say they think there's going to be volume requirements to claim part of the airdrop, this, that, the other thing. Once we get all the details on the tokenomics and all that stuff, I mean, we can look at it and make more accurate assessments. But I think the thing that's very clear is that the product is actually good and there's actually a real community around it. And you can see that from perp traders like Stowe and Nexus. You can see that from spot traders who are on Hyperliquid Spot. You can see that from people building things on top of it, like PvP Trade. Um, there's already Hyperliquid investment collectives that are focused on proliferating the ecosystem.
Yep.
I'm most as me an on chain guy. I'm most excited to check out the on chain, the L1, and see what's what. According to everybody else, it's good stuff. So I have been meaning to get in there and familiarize myself with it, just because this week we're gonna, that's the arena that people are gonna be in. Um, and you know me, I'm fine with missing whatever I miss. It's life, but it's definitely, and then the other thing is just that they haven't raised money, which is incredibly interesting in this day and age, especially relative to their competitors.
It's
So
admirable too, I
very
mean,
admirable.
building
Yeah,
out
I mean,
and
it's like Jeff has values and he sticks to them, and it's like those are the people that will figure it out. It's like he's not asking anybody for help. They're just figuring it out, and I think that's dope.
Yeah, I actually do too, even though obviously I'm a VC. Like, I think a lot of times people either over raise or they raise money because they're like, oh, it's cool to raise money or I should raise money. It's like, I don't know. I see stuff like I see stuff like Hyperlink and I'm like, this is pretty sick. Like,
Yeah, it's really easy to misalign your incentives when you raise,
right,
and
raise
a
just to
lot of the
raise too.
time, yeah, and a lot of the time you don't realize it until 3 years later when you're running through that Silicon Valley scene where he's like, wait, Could I just ask them for less money? And the guy's like, oh my God, that would have saved my whole company. And I respect that Jeff and the Hyperliquid team did it on their own very much. I mean, that's kind of my deal.
Bach, you're a Hyperliquid bull too. We got to get your thoughts.
Yeah, I think it's gonna do well. I think we see, like Smac said, we see some drop off. Probably not too much. I think farmers stop using it. I think like one of the main things that is really good about it is, like Tervo, you said, there's a bunch of apps building on it. PvP.trade is fantastic. Like,
Dude, one
you
of the
can-
coolest things we've seen in the past year. It's so funny. Like Jez and Stig going at it. Stig being at the top of the leaderboard just from holding Giga is so hilarious.
It's like Tolks Smac. If you guys aren't familiar, it's Telegram trading bot exclusively for Hyperliquid. You can long and short perps, but you can also buy spot, and it has you can start a clan. So us four could be in a clan, and then we would compete against other clans based on equity value, like how much money we have and how much money we made over the past week. It is really fucking fun.
It's funny. I have they have the Telegram bots now.
Whoa, we can swear on this podcast?
You can say whatever you want, but Stefan's gonna get upset because he's gonna have to edit some stuff out.
Very cool.
What were you gonna say, Smack, about the PvP
Yeah, that
trade?
has like a bot that you can add to your Telegram chats.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been telling. I'm in a group chat, a small group chat, who's been. I've said for like weeks. Yeah, all right, I'll do it. I'll do it this week, and it's just I get the update at the end of every day. It's like kind of just telling me,
Yeah.
dude,
Too
let's
much
go
going
already.
No, it's tough. I think it's tough to do the math on like protocols if you don't have their tokenomics, but I like kind of safely feel like it would launch at 1 to 2 bill. And I think that's pretty attractive for like what it is, because it already has, as an L1, it has the best product that we've had this cycle, one of the best products, which is Hyperliquid. So
And like you think of the pie is also massive, right? If you think of how much money, just like Binance, obviously Binance is a different beast, but still like the money that Binance has made over the last 5 years, I think probably like even capturing portions of that, like it's just nutty dollar amounts. So
Right. Yeah, you can get some wild valuations, and I agree. I mean, 1 to 2 billion. I mean, I'd be pretty comfortable shoving on that. So that would make me happy. But I mean, it's also, the valuation game is, in crypto a lot of times it's very relative too, and it helps when, everything's up 20-30% in the week you're launching. Like, it gives you a little higher baseline too.
The drift performance lately has been eye-catching.
Yeah, I think that's the market kind of front running Hyperliquid a little bit too. I mean, obviously Drift has their own stuff, and the listings are a good catalyst, but I think that's kind of a little bit people playing that relative valuation game. You get Drift up there, and then Hyperliquid does XYZ more than Drift, and so it should be valued, at what cost. So I think that's a little part in Drift's recent run too.
honestly, this is like one of the most interesting things I think when people talk about crypto stuff is like in both directions, the mental gymnastics that you can play. You're being like, yeah, I really like this thing, and instead of buying it, I'm gonna go buy this other thing that I think, because the thing I like is doing, like it's just like hilarious.
It's beautiful.
Obviously, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but like when it doesn't work, you look back and you're like, the thing I really liked went up a ton, but I bought this other thing. Which, like,
It is hilarious. Yeah, it's that's one of the best dynamics of crypto, to be honest. It's like you said, some of the mental gymnastics you see are just it's incredible.
I think one of my biggest realizations has been that instead of trying to buy some random beta to something, I should just buy the main token. Like every time I just get wrecked or shafted. And I'm like, I should have just fucking bought the token.
well, also the other thing I think is like, can you even measure, like do people ever look and try to actually measure the beta of something? Like I was thinking about this the other day when was looking at something that was beta, that's like beta to Bitcoin, like closely beta to Bitcoin that I would think. But I was like, is this like, I think in my mind that it's beta. Is it actually like, can I go back and look at like whether or not it does trade as beta or just like underperforms?
Less than
Right, but nobody-
less
yeah.
than 1% of market participants have
Yeah.
ever run any form of beta calculation.
Nobody does that work, yeah, but it's hilarious, that dynamic. It's just like, oh yeah, this is beta because like it sounds good. But then like you said, you go back, 6 months, year performance, and you're just like, oh, maybe it's actually not. Sometimes it's actually important to do that kind
Most
of
things people call beta are mediocre cope trades. Yeah.
That's what I get into usually. One thing I have realized, I ran some beta calculations, and there is some beta, but the thing is that I think the downside is a lot worse than a lot worse than what the upside is. Like the upside beta is lower than the downside beta. I don't know how else to describe it. I know it sounds stupid, but
No, I
if
think
you
it's a
have
good point because it's how crypto trades like in general. Like you see those charts about, BTC like performance, X% of performance is captured in like, a 10-day window. And that's the thing with the betas. Like, yeah, they can be betas, but if you miss like a 4 hour window, like, they can go up 30% in a 4 hour window. And like if you miss that, then I think that's kind of what you're getting at there too, Bach. Like the timing has to be perfect. And generally, crypto is such a highly volatile asset class and things go up a shit ton. Like you don't want to be relying too much on timing.
Yeah. Also, like for example, let's say Sol is BTC beta. This isn't a good one. Let's say Popcat is Sol beta, or like you calculated it's like 1.7 or something. When Sol goes up, Popcat goes up 1.7. But when Sol goes down, Popcat goes down 3.4. Like the downside beta is a lot more pronounced than the upside is, and it gets really like you need to be really really careful with how you manage that. And
Yeah.
I can't do that. I'm not good at that crap. So I would just rather like not do the calculations and just shove and like try and figure it out that way, which is stupid. But
Yeah. I mean, it just goes to the trending asset environment. Like, when things are strongly trending up, like you're probably okay. But again, like you're relying heavily on timing. And that's not necessarily something that I want to have in my day-to-day calculus because, it's the things go up so much. Like you don't want to be so reliant on that. But yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Let me ask you this also. Do you guys think that going forward, let's call it, I don't know, the next like 24-ish months, do you think that we see a much greater diversity of returns of assets, or do you think everything trends up or down together, like the way it has in the past, effectively, of like, oh, good environment, everything's going up, doesn't matter what you buy, bad environment, everything's going down, getting wrecked?
I think there's going to be more dispersion than we have ever seen. I was tweeting the other day about how this industry is just overweight on shit that people don't use at all. And what I mean by that, and most of it is on Ethereum. And so the main thing in the Sol ETH trade now is no longer Solana and ETH, the L1 tokens. It's about what is on the chains and what these things are valued at. The reason that Sol ETH is going to continue, or at least Solana TVL, the Solana TVL ratio to Ethereum TVL ratio is going to continue going up because there are things like Decentraland and Sandbox that are collectively worth $1.8 billion. That is not going to be the case in 6 months.
Yeah.
There's so many things like that that are basically just value waiting to be moved. And so a great example of what I mean by that. NFT statistics runs, or he used to run this stat a lot of what percentage of NFTs on ETH-L1 have been moved in the last 30 days, 90 days, more than 90 days. You can think of it as a histogram. Very, very, if you look at Bored Ape Yacht Club or even the most traded collections, very, very few of those tokens have moved in the previous year. We're talking about maybe 15% of those tokens. A lot of this TVL is just value waiting for somebody to get up off their couch and decide that they're going to liquidate it. And the liquidatable value is not the market value.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. I always wonder how much dead capital is on not like all of these chains almost. Every time I go down the CoinGecko like top 200, let's say, I still am like, how much of this FTV of this kind of chain that I haven't heard of somebody using in forever, that's at $1 billion or $2 billion, whatever the number is. How much of this is just like dead capital that like you can
won't
just
ever, yeah,
effectively
won't
zero?
ever be moved.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild. Um, I guess in response to the dispersion question, I think unquestionably over a 24-month period, like dispersion is way up. I mean, there is something to, over time, markets get a little more difficult and efficient. And I think we've seen that. I mean, we really saw it happen um, in the throughout, I'd say 23 and really most of 24 until now. I mean, crypto is still such a strongly correlated and just when everything's going up, I think, the dispersion talk, you can kind of just bet on a lot of things, but you're going to be left holding, a lot of dead bags like you were talking about. So, week to week, day to day, I think dispersion matters a little less, but if you're talking any mid to long term time frame, like I think dispersion only goes up.
I think I'm going to take a bit of the opposite side here. I think, and obviously I am younger in the markets than all of you guys, so please take my words with a grain of salt. But I don't.
Need the different perspective. I need to find the people who joined crypto like this year. Like who are those?
Yeah.
I need to hear what they think too.
I have a bunch of them, and their opinions are incredible. I love it.
All right, sorry I cut you off, Bob.
No, it's okay. Tervo, first of all, that liquidity question, I want to get to that because that thing also blows my mind, and I think it's mostly just it's not real, it's fake. It's just like how like some tokens on Solana, the market cap is like 600 mil, but because the liquidity is 20K, the real market cap is like 100 mil. But in terms of dispersion, I think that people are overestimating how mature the market has gotten this year. I don't think it's as mature as people think it is. Like, I don't think that all of TradFi is here. I think that there's going to be some tokens that are valued fundamentally. I think DePIN is probably a big one for this, and obviously like DeFi 1.0. So those might crater less in a bear, and over the 24 months they might like perform differently. But I still think that we're still in that phase for crypto markets that is whole space 1000x and not like selecting alts is important, um but not as important as it's going to be, let's say, like next cycle or the cycle after that. I think people are over indexing a bit on how much the market's matured. I don't know.
I think you're right in terms of like, and I'm probably overestimating as well, like in terms of how much it's going to move around. But I wouldn't be surprised if I just brought this number down. I just cut this number in half. 35% of the top 100 is different in 6 months.
Yeah, I think that's probably about right. I mean, again though, like if you're in like acceleration, like trending markets, like the dispersion, and picking matters a little less. Like, there's still going to be some brain dead stuff that 3 to 5x's, which, I guess you can be fine holding that. But I don't know. I just think over a long enough time, and it really matters. Like we saw, in kind of like the 6 months across the summer, like um, down from the highs, like that's when you really see the dispersion and the coins, which coins you're in mattering. So it just depends on the market environment, which again, like over time, like that's a healthier ecosystem. So I was glad to see it, and I think it'll continue. I don't necessarily think it'll matter in the next 3 to 6 months, but you look out 12 to 24 months, like I think asset selection and dispersion will be pretty crucial.
Yeah, there are still way too many coins though to send them all up.
No, we need
Like,
more
No,
coins.
we need more.
We need
no,
more
there's
coins.
like it's not like just to hedge my
I
previous
mean,
answer.
right. There are
That's a
too
tough
many to
number.
send them all up, but we still need
Yeah,
more. We
we need more. Smac, what do you think? What were you gonna say?
No, I was just curious what you guys thought, just because I do sometimes think I am mid curving it or like coping about the idea that we'll get more dispersion depending on asset selection. Uh, I think I think that could be more me being more hopeful it happens sooner than it actually does.
I just don't think it's as easy as it used to be. It's hasn't been as easy as it used to be for the past year. There's been more dispersion than ever. I don't know why that would stop, especially with what I said in terms of just so many empty things that are yet to be deflated. And whether they can be deflated or most of that value is still locked in VC tokens is, a case by case basis. But a lot of this stuff is like,
Yeah, that's the other thing I was gonna say is I think it matters more at kind of like the earlier stage, like VC and echo type stuff. Like I think you want to be more, um, I guess, selective in that sense because we've seen, stuff from previous cycle that raised at insane valuations, like launch under that previous valuation and then trade 30, 40, 50%, sometimes even more lower. So I think there's a little bit of difference between the liquid aspect and the early stage aspect. And I think Smack, you can speak to that more than I can, but I think the dispersion, you're seeing it there first and the valuations there, and then that kind of trickles down to the liquid markets eventually.
Chaos Labs, the leading on-chain risk management firm, recently launched its new flagship Oracle product, Edge. Edge delivers integrated, high-precision risk and price data for any application with a market. After 2 months of securing Jupiter, Edge has already secured $30 billion in volume and more than 60% of all Solana perps volume. Edge is comprised of 3 components: high-precision price data with an integrated risk engine, automated delivery of real-time parameter adjustments on-chain, and secure delivery of custom data points via zero-knowledge proofs. Follow and reach out to Chaos Labs on X to learn more. Thanks again to Chaos Labs for sponsoring today's episode.
What's up, guys? Fuel Ignition is finally here. Fuel Ignition is a high-performance L2 solution that aims to solve both state sustainability and performant execution as an ETH rollup. Ignition is built upon the Fuel VM and a UTXO-based asset-centric architecture with ETH-grade security. Make sure to check out the growing Fuel ecosystem by participating in Phase 2 of the Fuel Points program today. Visit fuel.network to learn more. Yeah, let's ask Mac what he thinks of the private markets. How were they earlier in the year? How are they now? And how do you see them going on in the future?
Yeah. I would say they were definitely quieter. There was a period of like 6 to 8 weeks there where it was super kind of, I want to say, dead. Like everybody I talked to was seeing the same things and also just kind of not excited. Just like, not that interested in the things I'm seeing. I mean, a couple months ago, maybe you saw like a zillion prediction market examples pop up. Everybody started launching their own because they saw some of the traction Polymarket was having. And I think that obviously happens all the time. Like maybe a year or two ago, it was everybody launching perp dexes. And so I think I don't know, there was definitely a period of I don't know what the word is. It's like very lethargic. I think more recently, I would say the AI agent stuff it's like everybody's launching an AI agent related company now. So
Classic.
yeah,
Classic.
so it's definitely shifted there. But I think just in terms of like overall market, there's been more interesting things, I would say, over the last couple months that I've seen, particularly on the app side. I think there's like definitely a broader pivot to the application stuff people are talking about of, apps can capture value. We need stuff that quote unquote people will actually use. So there's been I would say a shift to that, but I don't know if that's just because I've mostly been saying that I'm less interested in new block space stuff, and so I'm seeing more of those pitches. And then pricing wise, like I don't know, we invest like it's a little bit harder to say because we typically are doing literally first check, and so like that pricing doesn't vary as much as say
Yeah.
the next round.
Yeah.
But I would
There's
say
not big of a spectrum.
Yeah, I would say the pricing side is kind of starting to, has kind of like, re-rated a little bit over the last couple months, 2 or 3 months, I'd say.
Perfect. That makes me happy. What are
The
some
app,
apps that
yeah, I was gonna say the app focus makes me
yeah.
excited.
I want to go back for 1 second just because what I call the proliferation of ideas after one idea is successful the many captains problem. It's a thing I talk about quite frequently because I could never bring myself to work on like a meme coin launchpad right now when Pump Fun is around. It's like you're sailing a dinghy into a sea where there's a giant pirate ship and you're gonna get wrecked. And I don't understand why so many people, actually I do understand why so many people run into the many captains problem. They love to. It's because VCs and founders largely, a lot of them lack independent vision. A lot of them lack courage to try an idea that's new and might fail drastically. And the people who are doing those things are people like Seed Club and Alliance DAO who have invested in the hottest things over the past 12 months because they
And
weren't
Compound.
playing, yeah,
And Compound.
and collab currency. And these, there's a bunch of guys who are good at this. There's a bunch of guys who invest in copycats that just look juiced up. And this is why you have so many L2s. This is why you have so many prediction markets. This is why you have so many meme coin launchpads. This is why you have so many AI tokens. They all do the same thing, and everybody would be better off if they were all on the same pirate ship. But instead, a lot of people want to sail their own dinghy. I have no desire to ever sail my own dinghy into a sea full of pirate ships. It doesn't make any sense. You're not gonna win.
I agree with that. What is Tervo, Smack you. What are you guys looking for that are pirate ships and not dinghies? Like, what do you guys want to see built? What are some things that you're particularly excited about?
Great question.
Okay, so for me, like my whole thing with everything in crypto is like, all right, is the thing you're building actually either is there like a big market? Like if you win, does it matter? And so I don't know. Sometimes in crypto, I feel like there's the ambition is almost too small, where it's like, yeah, this is maybe an interesting feature for something else, but it's not like this is not a venture scale outcome if you build the best version of this. So like the stuff that's been interesting to me on the app side specifically is like I'll give you what's one example. The things that are cool, like the wearables company. We didn't invest in these guys, but what's the name of the company? Ninx is the founder. Pulse, I think. So Pulse is, I think they're shipping their first version of the like a Whoop device where it's owning your own, like owning that healthcare data, which I think is interesting because there's all kinds of problems in the healthcare space with data. And so there's like, it's very siloed. There's like actually huge markets there that have real problems that are like nobody in the Web2 space is necessarily incentivized to solve or wants to solve. And so the crypto side of that I think is super interesting, and those markets are massive. So if you can start with some type of wearable, that's maybe an interesting way to like tap into that market, and you can abstract away a lot of this stuff. So it's like, okay, that's interesting because they're building kind of like a app hardware product first to try to solve that problem. I saw a recent pitch around roaming, so roaming data, like telco roaming data problems, and how using eSIMs is really a pain in the ass. You have to constantly switch, or you have to buy a bunch of them at once, and the service isn't necessarily great, and it's kind of rips your face off. And so building specifically an application designed for roaming and like people who travel a ton and use a bunch of eSIMs, that's like an interesting wedge again into telco, which is a legacy institution market that is huge and has all kinds of problems. And it almost reminds me of like cable companies. Nobody brags to their friends about how awesome their telecom provider is. It's like, I use this version or this version. They both suck, but for different reasons. Nobody's happy about that. So it's like, those are big markets where people are trying to build like a first version. first like application level. Okay, let me solve this problem and potentially have some sequence of why I can capture a bigger slice of this massive pie down the road. Yeah, so that's maybe two examples, I guess.
Yes, stuff like that's definitely interesting. And I mean, it goes back to what you said about what do you win when you win. And that's something that should always be top of mind for everyone. I mean, you're talking about, healthcare and health tracking and measuring and telecom. Like those are, two of the biggest industries in not only the US, but the world generally. So stuff like that is really exciting.
I think connected to that, we're gonna see a lot more boring stuff coming on chain.
Yeah.
Like telecom, it's objectively compared to the dumbest financial products the world has ever seen, it's rather boring, but it's a real thing, and I think we're gonna see a lot of stuff like that. There's a there's somebody putting a bunch of commodities stuff on chain. There's multiple people putting a bunch of commodity stuff on chain. There's people doing map data, there's people doing natural resources data, there's people doing all this different stuff. A lot of boring stuff is going to come on chain. I'm most interested in the AI stuff for sure. I've been kind of locked in on that for like 3 weeks. And so I have a tweet about how the most important thing that came out of NFTs in 2021 isn't any of the ideas or the iterations of the ideas, but it was really just the entrance to cryptocurrency and the blockchain of a new bucket of users. Before 2021, it was, broadly speaking, obviously there's exceptions, blah, blah, blah. It was mostly devs and traders, smart people and profiteers. NFTs brought in artists and creatives in a way that we didn't have before. This AI stuff is doing the same thing. We now have AI Twitter interested in our stuff. Real people with real brains, real thoughts, PhDs, and real jobs are now playing in our sandbox. Larry Fink's in the sandbox. Sam Altman's in the sandbox. People are starting to see that they should probably get in the sandbox. And so, 2 weeks ago, we had Noose, who is an open source AI research company, publish a paper on Teehee, the pet rock that can, use its own wallet and blah, blah, blah. And, we had Goat, blah, blah, blah. And that ball is just, all those ideas are out of the box. Anything that you can think of, you can probably figure out a way to do it within the next 5 years. And so I'm most interested in what appears out of that. And I'm not particularly trying to predict it. I don't think there's much use in predicting it. I think you just have to read and react. Because there's been a bunch of stuff. I mean, yesterday, this Sentience coin, I do own it, basically acknowledged its own token and like acknowledged that the price is important independently. And this ball is just going to keep rolling. When people see somebody do something, I wrote about this in 9 out of 10 Monkey Brains. 4-minute mile. Okay, after the 4-minute mile got broken, 350, 340. Okay, you see somebody do something and you're like, oh wow, that's not impossible, and then you go build on it.
Yeah.
And so where we are in 6 months on the AI side, I have absolutely no idea. Anybody who tries to tell you they do is probably trying to sell you something.
That was good. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely like you said, it's that Pandora's box thing where it's just, it's opened up, and Smack could definitely need your thoughts on the crypto AI stuff, because I know you guys have a dedicated AI team at Compound VC too, right, for traditional AI stuff too. So that's why I like getting your thoughts on things as well, because I remember when we first talked about the AI and crypto stuff. This was maybe like 7 months ago, and it's just like, oh yeah, but I talk to people that actually invest in this, like, in the traditional sense for a living, and it's funny, like the mental gymnastics, like we were talking about earlier, just what is the difference between reality and the stuff that people tweet about on crypto Twitter. So yeah, I don't know if you have
They called
any
top tick crypto crazy.
He's a visionary.
He's supposed to come on the pod. He still won't. I'm gonna sue
We'll
him.
get
for
him.
not coming
We'll
on
get
the
him.
pod.
But yeah, Smack, what do you think about the whole crypto AI?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
obviously it's it's bare metal right now, but you can kind of squint and see the vision a bit.
yeah. I definitely think that's true. Yeah, when we talked about it previously, I was like, yeah, stuff's all vapor.
Yeah,
Well, well, mostly
we were
too.
right.
Still
Yeah,
is, baby.
yeah. People would tell me like, obviously I spend like Mike and Shelby and Mackenzie spend more time on AI specific stuff, but yeah, like so we've part of our fund does AI ML robotics investing and has been doing that since 2016 too. So it's like I think yeah the like you get this compounding knowledge of okay, will this work? Does this make sense? Like over time, as you see companies get built that way, um, I don't know, you get like a better appreciation the same way you would in crypto of hey, I've seen this route, I've seen this attempted. This won't work for these reasons, or it will. And so yeah, I think back then I was like, yeah, this is mostly vaporware. It doesn't feel like there's a ton of hardcore ML AI talent who's interested in the stuff that we're doing. Um, I actually think one of the like interesting problems that to me is related to AI, but less on the agent side, has been um, the distributed model stuff that I think a lot of people didn't think was possible, including like really smart people on the like AIML side. And so there's a crypto AI company out there who
What
is
is
in
that?
the
Intellect? Is it
yeah,
Prime Intellect?
yeah, Intellect. They're running like a 10 billion parameter distributed training. Like they're, yeah, using distributed training on a 10 billion parameter model, which is like it's not a huge model, but it's something that I think a lot of people didn't think was feasible. And so you're seeing excitement from traditional AI labs and people who are like, this is sick. Like I'm interested to see what these loss ratios look like, how the performance is. I think it's probably around 2/3 done today. So it's like it's going to takes a while. It's like these things you can't. It's not
Right.
like you spin it up in
Yeah.
a day. And so it's like very TBD. But to Turbo's point, I do think I agree. Like the more you can get different groups of people who have specializations outside of crypto interested in the space for one reason or another. Uh,
Mostly for reasons that are not profit is the important
yeah,
part.
yeah. Yeah. I don't. It's less interesting if you have people from research labs who come and are like, "Ooh, I can launch a token."
Launch
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody can be interested for profit. That's not interesting.
Right. Yeah. I think that's true. And maybe and this was something the last 2 years. I think. I guess during like the bear market, people were wondering. People talked about the NFT boom, and it was like, hey, this actually brought in a ton of people. Some of them wash out and leave, which is fine, but you get this consistent growing base of people interested in crypto. And so, if AI crypto is something that brings more smart people, more people interested in like playing with this technology, that's a good thing. I'm still fairly skeptical of the crypto AI stuff I've seen personally so far. But yeah, I
In
don't know.
reality, Alpha Leak, I'm just waiting for one of these bots to figure out that it needs to make an ohm flywheel. Um,
Oh,
cut
it needs
that.
it
Cut that.
make its own proof of work chain or proof of stake chain. Now we're absolutely cooking.
Dude, that's Tau, man. We can't do another Tau. We need to pump the only Tau that we already have.
Oh, dude.
Tau needs an
Dude.
AI agent that's as funny as Zero, bro, to pump its
Yeah, that's
flywheel.
true.
I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, that's true.
Why doesn't Tao make a subnet with a zero, bro? Okay. And before I forget, AI wallet UI like Wayfinder, and
Yeah.
there's another one. Let me find it because it's cool. And it's worth a shot.
The most interesting, like near term feasible thing on the AI agent side that I think would be cool, just from a user experience and like almost a virality thing too, is the ability to kind of tell your agent or wallet UI, however it's designed, like, go do these things for me, and have it come back, like have the ability to come back to you with questions. It's like almost treating it like an intern. It's like, hey, I have these things that I would like to have done, and come back to me when you have questions as you're doing it. But like longer form context for doing things on chain, I think would be interesting.
Yeah, and so the other one that I'm thinking of is called Nani. Shout out Nani as well, XBT. But it's at NANI__000. They are a AI wallet UI, just like similar to Wayfinder. And I've previously said that I think that AI wallet UI is one of the few hopes to solve Ethereum fragmentation, just because you can type a sentence and have your AI agent run across 3 chains from, and it's like I have that tweet and I have another one that says when I talk about liquidity fragmentation on Ethereum, I'm not actually talking about the theoretical prospect of liquidity fragmentation. I'm talking about the fact that it takes me 400 clicks and 12 minutes to go from one thing I want to do on ETH to another thing I want to do on ETH.
Yeah.
The thing that could solve that is typing one sentence to your AI agent and having him do it in 1 minute without you clicking another button. I've also said that if that is the savior of ETH, it's going to be a shame when the .eths act like it was a plan and not a serendipitous savior. But that's beside the point.
I will say 2 things about this. First of all, I love the idea of the agent instead of the crappy fucking UI where I have to revoke and then do stuff all the time. I wanted to do auto compounding stuff as well, because for some reason, like all lending and yield stuff doesn't have auto compounding. But the issue here is that anytime that, for example, let's say Anthropic updates Claude or like the model, it starts doing something differently. Like it starts fucking up in some way, and I don't like that chance with, like, I know, like, in the long term, or not even like over the next 6 months, this probably won't be a worry anymore. But like in the short term, that's my only serious worry with agents, is that
Right.
when weights are changed, or when parameters are changed, or when like the data input into these models is changed, or when they update something in the background, something like things change, and I don't like that things can change when I'm interacting with money. Like I don't want to tell it to like, bridge over to Solana, and then it like bridges to Phantom and says good luck.
Yeah.
I don't like
that. And I think
point.
that I would guess that projects like Nani and Wayfinder aren't running on like a Claude API that can be changed by Anthropic without their knowledge. I would guess that they're probably running you would hope that they're running their own models with their own weights that they update themselves so that those issues can be prevented. But it's definitely one of those things. It's kind of like it. I agree, just because it's similar to the feeling I get using Azura. I've been using Azura lately. Shout out them. I like them better than other trading terminals, just because the UI feels like it takes itself more seriously and less dark pattern type stuff. But when you use these terminals, it's like, and so they also they're working on making your wallet some form of trustless. I don't have a full understanding of that, but you do have a seed phrase, and they're working on that still, I think. But like, I get anxiety when I have too high of a balance in Azura, because if this goes down or whatever, like even if there's maintenance for 15 minutes, like I can't have that,
Yeah.
And it's the same deal.
You saying you're profitable?
Must be nice.
This wallet has a target. This wallet has a target painted on its back already. It's 2 months old.
Oh,
I think also, just to box point around the agent stuff, like you're kind of uncomfortable with the existing experience, and you're probably, think about like the average person who's not even in crypto, you're probably way out on the risk curve of like, I'm comfortable with lots of stuff, and this is something I'm not. So it's like,
right.
okay,
Our understanding is so much
Yeah.
deeper.
Yeah.
And we're uncomfortable.
yeah, Great point. Yeah, if I'm uncomfortable with something, then it has to have extremely, extremely high risk.
If we're uncomfortable with something, the chances are the layperson doesn't even understand what we're uncomfortable with.
Yeah. Oh. I guess, another 10, 15 minutes or so, if that's cool. Smack, I got to hear your thoughts a little bit on DePIN. I know you guys put out that great report.
Tolks the host now.
I got to hear DePIN. You know my love for DePIN, and you and Noah wrote an excellent report that I know a lot of people aren't going to read.
Yeah.
But if you want to give,
I listened to the AI summary.
some high level, if you want to give some high level thoughts there, that would be, and kind of where you see DePIN going, because just going back to what we were talking about earlier, just bringing more things on chain, more people from other expertise, like you're seeing it with solar and energy. Just kind of your general thoughts on where that's headed.
Yeah. Shout out to Noah too. I mean, he spent a crazy amount of time working on
Yeah,
that.
shout out Noah.
Yeah, so I think the DePIN stuff, like, it kind of goes back to just originally, at least how I and Compound kind of thinks of where we want to spend time and be investing in the crypto side is like, again, if you win, is the prize big enough to matter? And so the DePIN side, I think there's a lot of interesting markets that exist that are kind of broken or have these like huge problems that are either there's no incentive to solve them in a traditional way, or they're just like the most slow moving legacy institutions ever. And
Yeah,
like,
keep
those
going,
are
and I'm gonna come back to that.
those are the ones you would expect. Like, of course, it happened for financial institutions first for crypto, but there's tons of other industries that are just very stale or just not very innovative. And so the technology away from crypto, like specifically on energy, for example, like you brought it up, Tolk. So like energy is super interesting because like battery and solar storage technology has gotten so much better over the last like 5 to 10 years that you can do stuff today that you couldn't have done back then. So like there's just these other waves of technology that have improved in the last decade so much that it becomes feasible to start like disrupting those industries in a different way. And so like distributed energy, super interesting because markets are massive. How it's done today is not good, even on the financing side. And it makes sense. Like there's a reason why a distributed network is better than a centralized one for something like that. And so look, moving power around is not exactly the easiest thing in the world. So it's not like, oh yeah, just throw up some panels and we're good to go. But the whole thing is like, okay, well, usually if you're building like a company that's going to be some multi-billion-dollar, deca-billion-dollar outcome, like you don't really spin those up in 24 months, 36 months. Like that's not normal.
Right.
In crypto, sure, we get FDVs that are ludicrous very quickly. But that's it's not the norm. And so obviously it's going to take time, but the industries like telco, energy, healthcare in particular, I think there's just these waves. Yeah. There's just these wave of like, hey, people kind of feel like they're getting wrecked by traditional institutions or legacy institutions across like a bunch of different vectors, like money, data, all of these things. And it's like, all right, if you have more ownership in crypto, like how do you actually build businesses that get to like these very acute points that people have, and then like you go from there. And so DePIN is like a natural space, I think, for a lot of these companies to be built. And yeah, I mean the markets are just massive. Like there's one thing we joke about is this like acoustic network. Like there's a public company called ShotSpotter that does a couple $100 million a year in revenue that most people have never heard of. And it's like, okay, why would a distributed version of this not actually be a way superior one? And yeah, it's just, there's just a ton of stuff like that that I think maybe more crypto native people just
they don't think about.
So
the other real quick, Terv, the other thing that always excites me about DePIN too is like it's the justifiability of the token as like incentives and like some connection to hardware, real life work, like even the Wall Street analyst or the your local news station, like you can understand why you can see the strings between why the token is necessary in a world where there's a bunch of unnecessary tokens. Like that always is one of the things that I hang my hat on with DePIN, and why I'm excited about it is because it the token matters in a sense more than a lot of other sectors within crypto.
Yeah, it actually has a real value loop.
And now you can potentially direct value accrual back to the token, maybe.
Right. That'd be awesome. What a time.
And so to go back to legacy systems and such, and no incentive to upgrade. My other domain, my day job is in physical commodities. And so I work with these systems. I've worked with these systems for 3.5 years every day. And I can tell you for a fact that these are billion-dollar industries that move billions of dollars, maybe trillions of dollars of volume every day, week, over the internet, over systems that many of them were literally built on Windows XP. Some of them actually launch a virtual machine that runs on Windows 2000. Or it's not XP, it's the one before. And these companies and their users, neither of them have any incentive to upgrade that because the users can only use that software. There's no alternative. You have to use that software to do the job. There's no incentive to upgrade it. It doesn't make any sense. Some of these things are infuriatingly terrible UI. All this, there's just so much room for improvement across the board. And you're basically, everybody's just kind of waiting for somebody to get up and do it. And like, for example, I've told my boss before that the first person to plug Claude into all our data and use it to 10x our thinking is going to wipe the floor with everybody for a couple weeks until everybody else figures out what they're doing. And that can basically be applied to all of these industries, especially trade related commodity industries. But yeah, there's an incredible amount of room for new ideas because like I explain my day job to people and they're like, "Oh wow, I've never even heard of that." And like nobody thinks about how coffee is shipped. Okay? Nobody thinks about how oil is shipped. Nobody thinks about how power moves. Nobody
Doesn't
thinks
it
about
just
how
happen?
natural gas moved. Dude, I'm honestly I'm super interested in oil just because like
Put it on the
I
blockchain.
don't understand the process compared to my profession. My industry has more rules, uh, more constraints, and it's like with oil, like you're like communicating with vessels and stuff, dude. Like that's what it is for coffee. Like how is milk traded? Okay, I don't know. One of my accounting teachers in school told me the reason that I actually reneged on my accounting offer and went to take this job is because I asked the TA or the professor that I was TA for, and he said, I mean, I don't know, man. One of my former students took a job trading milk and he's doing really well. And I was like, what does that even mean? Okay? A layperson has no idea what a commodity market looks like, and they don't need to. But somehow those markets are going to be upgraded. Their innovation is going to come for them. They're going to become more efficient. They're not going to run on Windows XP forever.
The only other kind of like point around this I would make is just that, which I think is important and probably underrated, is like the career risk now for suggesting some type of alternative that's involved with crypto is a lot lower than it was 3 or 4 years ago. Like it,
1,000%. Yeah,
you
that's a
can't
great
like
point.
4 years ago if you said, oh well, there's this DePIN network that uses crypto
Let,
around, like people would be like,
let me tell you about the blockchain.
And
yeah,
now you can go to your boss and say Sam Altman's in the sandbox, Larry Fink's in the sandbox. What
Crypto's
the fuck are
legal.
we doing over
It's
here?
legal. It's legal now.
The president is in the sandbox.
yeah, the career risk just like infinitely lower, I think, which matters if you think about decision makers.
I will say the thing I wanted to say was like a lot of these legacy systems run on Windows XP, but I feel like that's, you know how like flight systems are also run on like Commodore 64 or some shit, like from way
Yeah, and
back.
it's just because it's
enough.
it's such a large cost and such a headache to replace these systems. And so they do it piecemeal. And it's like every once in a while, like you'll get a new upgrade on one part of it. And then over time, sometimes you end up, what's the Smac name of that myth with the ship? If you replace all the boards, is it still the same ship?
Oh yeah.
God, you don't have that right off the top of your head.
No.
What do I keep you around for?
It's Thesis. It's Thesis.
Thank you, Bach. I knew I should ask the European. But yeah, it's like these things get replaced piecemeal over time, and then eventually, some salesman for a new system comes in and convinces some guy at the top to replace the whole thing, and then they do it, and it's a giant pain in everybody's ass until you figure it out again 3 months later, and then it's way better.
That's a good point. I'm gonna ask one last thing, and I think we can.
Can we talk about markets? BTC is at 83K.
Dude,
yeah, we haven't even. Like, what is going on over here, man? Jeez Louise, right?
Let's run.
How about peanut?
Higher.
Dude, that's
How
CZ
about
paying.
that? Welcome to the purge.
Welcome to
crime
the
is legal.
show, bud. That's
Crime is legal.
Financial crime is once against legal on chain. This is what I meant, by the way, Smac. You know when I asked you like, what can you say on the podcast? This is specifically what I was. Someone gonna knock on my door and say, "Hey, man."
I don't know how I ended up on this in this group on this pod.
Probably added by a third party.
Definitely added by a third party.
But yeah, maybe just in closing, like Smac, your kind of thoughts on liquid side, and I mean VC2, just kind of the next, I don't know, maybe couple quarters through 2025. If you have any thoughts there.
Yeah, bullish.
Yes.
No, yeah, just kidding. No, I think look, I think the setup is obviously good, about as good as you could have hoped for if you're just like a crypto specific person. Realistically, I think this stuff, like any regulatory movement and change, is going to take longer than people expect. I don't think you really see anything like material that happening there until probably this summer. Obviously, markets don't care; they're going to front run a lot of that anyway.
I was gonna say that's good. You don't want the dev shipping.
Should we?
You want the anticipation.
Should we wrap up with inning talk?
Dude, I can't do any talk. Tervo, I was gonna wrap up with asking you about your thoughts on NFTs, but we can do inning talk. I just don't know how many innings there are in baseball. That's the thing. It's 9 or 10.
We don't need to do inning talk. We don't need to do inning talk.
Are you a cricket guy?
No cricket.
Okay,
Smac already wrote the article about inning talk.
Smac.
He doesn't want to go over it again. I don't care. It's Milady.
Yeah, I forgot you called
Milady,
me that.
it's Dime, it's Smac. It's Smac.
I forgot you called me that.
It's Milady, it's Dime, it's Smac. I'm not changing.
I think, all right, so the one thing I'll say on the market side is like, I don't really understand, and maybe you disagree with this. I don't really understand. People keep asking me like, oh, are you going to sell during the inauguration? Are you going to sell Q2? Oh, like when we're going to top in the summer? Like, what? Why are people so
they're so concerned with they're incredibly concerned with bridges that are on the horizon just now. They're like, oh, when are we going to cross that bridge that's fucking 10 miles away? I don't know, pal. I'll cross it when I get there.
Yeah, I'm more of like, all right, I'll just keep paying attention to the things that I think matter, and that'll if those things look horrendous in 2 months, I'll be like, things don't look great. If they don't look that different and prices are much higher, I'm not going to be like, you got to like, this is the top.
Right.
Because prices have gone up. Like people were doing that this summer. They're like, no, we topped. It's over. Like,
dude, people were hawking Coinbase App Store rank in fucking March before we made all-time high. It's like, hey, settle down, bucko. Okay, keep it in your pants.
Dude, I had people messaging me when it was, I think we went all-time high and then we had a correction. And I have this guy that I know, and he's just like a perma bear for crypto for some reason. But he's one of those ones that like brings it up a lot. You know, like and he messaged me and he was like, "Is it over?
Is it
Like, is this the end?"
Jason Kalkanis?
Dude, yeah.
It's so over.
I have a buddy actually who trades like IG credit, and he's like a very TradFi, like very plugged into traditional markets. Texting me yesterday, being like, "Is this like should I start selling some of my Bitcoin here?" And I was like, I was kind of like, "What? Like, what is the thesis for that?" And he's like, "I mean, how much more can it go up?" And I'm like, "All right, like,
Oh, buddy.
like I don't want to have this conversation."
right.
I'm not going to defend it now to you. So do whatever you want. I don't know. I think markets look good.
Yeah.
Oh wow! Thanks for the insight. You got anything else?
Yep.
I think things look great. Yeah. I mean, it's like such a like bell curve meme, but it's literally like U.S. capital markets, like they run the world, and like crypto is literally just essentially legalized for the first time ever. Like
The president
really
is
doesn't have
going
to
to
be-
sell a 1 million piece NFT collection for 1 Bitcoin each, and people
It
are
just
like,
doesn't-
should I buy?"
Yeah. It just doesn't have to be more complicated than that. Like,
Yeah.
and I think people like what Smac said about, timing when to sell and, the inauguration or Q1, Q2, like, I don't know. I mean, you have a constructive view for the next month or two, and then you constantly observe like the metrics that you look at that you think matter. And if there's no reason to sell, like, I'm not going to sell. It's
I
really
wake
just
up
that
every
simple.
day, I read the tea leaves, I click the button they tell me to.
That being said, selling is definitely harder than buying. So I do think.
Why
like,
would I ever sell?
It's selling is not that hard. You press the
you
red
sell.
button, and then you press 2 more buttons, and it's in your bank account. Everybody should
No.
try it.
Why would I ever sell? The market can only go up, brother. They
Because
just
I'm
made
not
it
buying
legal.
I'm not buying your beers forever.
No.
Yeah, I don't know. My view on like the selling stuff is also it's way easier to think about it today. Like even though I just fudded people asking me when to sell, I think like the timing stuff doesn't matter, but you should probably think about the stuff that you own. Like, I don't know, maybe this is.
Yeah, Kobe has the tweet. I have the screenshot of it where the guy asks him, "I'm stealing your rant here, and I'm not sorry." Let me pull it up just because Kobe has. So he used to have that pyramid, right, about allocations, and it's from 2017. Satstar quoted it. This is from November 11th, and Kobe says, "God, I really need to post an update on this thing that I no longer agree with." A bunch of chatter, and somebody says, Kobe goes, "If you have $1,000 and you bought $100 of Solana at $1, does it make sense for you to be selling it randomly at $10 because it's now half of your portfolio? Or is it better to try and identify a good exit for the asset based on the asset's reality? To me, if you bought a winner, it's very unlikely to be the top exactly when some portfolio rule of yours kicks in. Instead, it's better to try to figure out why it's a winner and figure out an optimal exit for this bet you made rather than selling for reasons the market doesn't care about it. The old school crypto, it was more fine to sell stuff arbitrarily because you never really missed out on anything meaningful. Maybe it went 3 to 5x higher than you thought, oh well. But post 2020, it goes 100x higher than you thought and becomes a legitimate asset." So yeah, optimal exits is what you look for. You're not looking for, when Lil Pump launches another shitcoin. Okay, you're not looking for when Soldier Boy comes back for his 20th scam. These aren't top signals anymore. They're things that happen all the time because crypto is not niche anymore. Everybody knows what it is.
Yeah, you're never going to sell it. Like selling the top, I think, is unrealistic. And you actually, I was doing a little bit of analysis on this recently of previous cycles and like how long you actually had to. If you look back and said, if I sold at all during this range, I would be happy. And like those ranges are a little bit longer than you would expect. I mean, they differ depending on the coin, obviously.
It's like 10 weeks.
They're shorter for like the more speculative stuff, obviously, but there's if you're not thinking about those things, I think ahead of time, then that's how you can start to talk yourself into round tripping a lot of stuff. So,
dude, I'm definitely round tripping, and I'm definitely going super cycle mode. Like
Nice.
100%, I already know it.
Hell yeah.
I'm going to fly over there and click your buttons for you.
Dude, I don't know. I have that tendency. I get really hyped up, and I caught myself yesterday. I was like, because I have, let's say, like, I think token X is gonna go to 200 mil, and that's my like price target. But yesterday I was like, you know what? Like, markets are going up. This one actually might go to like
Yeah.
1 mil.
Just quadruple your target.
No, but legit, it's
Yeah, this is why I think it's just like, even if you're scaling out of stuff, you're not going to be
perfect. Like
you're not
that's
going to be
like,
mad, down the
yeah.
road.
CT's obsession with entries and exits, like it's again, like goes back to the discussion earlier. Like this is a highly like volatile, an asset class that can appreciate a lot in a short time frame. Like you don't have to
yeah.
be perfect. Like that's just get that through your head.
I need to figure this out. I actually might need to sit down and look at my bags today.
Anyway.
Bach, you're telling us you're actually doing beta analysis on like tokens, but then it's like the there are whatever two wolves inside of you. Bach being like, let me do very sophisticated, let me do this analysis on beta, and then also price target 5x just because I'm feeling good.
Dude, but it's just like sometimes
Perfectly balanced.
The thing
Perfectly
is,
balanced.
I always see like traders that I like, or like Twitter people that I respect, talk about how the majority of the battle is actually like psychology.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know about that. But then like I've started to realize more and more that it literally is just me fighting against my monkey brain, which is constantly like, hey man, this one could go a little bit higher, just hold a little bit more. And it's 100% true. Like for me at least, like it's just about trying to
The
figure out like
game it's just
your
trying to
brain.
outsmart yourself.
Yeah, it's literally been that. I think that's a good way to. Well, what do we think? Talksy, do you have anything else you want to ask?
Mount
I
Rushmore
don't
movies?
I don't think so. No, I think we covered it all. I mean, Smack, I don't know if you have any final thoughts on anything in general. If not, you can just tell people where to find you and Compound VC, and always DM Smack. He will respond.
Yeah. Yes. You can find me incidentally on Twitter. It's probably easiest. 0xSmac. And compound.vc is our company site. Lots of writing on there that some people read, a lot of people don't, but
people should go read it.
We'll probably keep writing anyway.
I say I read it on Twitter.
Nice.
Tervo, what about you? How should people reach you?
Just get me on Twitter. It's at Tervo 4Os. But yeah, I don't know. I got a bunch of stuff cooking. I got some announcements I got coming up. Pretty exciting stuff. So
announcement of an announcement.
Yeah, that's me now.
What the hell are you announcing?
My entire life is just slowly becoming the things I hate. Like I used to be the guy who'd be like, when one of my friends was like, "Oh my god, I know this unreleased ID," I would be like, "Dude, shut the fuck up, okay?" And now I'm the guy who's like, "Holy fuck, I know this unreleased ID." And now I'm the guy who's doing announcements of announcements. It's whatever.
Tervo is DMing me some wild stuff in the last week or two. He was
hyped. multiple Michelin star dishes in the oven. I don't know which one is going to come out first. We just kind of let them cook.
Are you writing again?
I have like 15,000 words in my computer that I need to organize into an order that makes sense.
It's releasing his opus.
I imagine page 1 is just Tolks whipping Tervo until Tervo produces like a single.
Lately, it's actually just Bopin writing essays and me and Tolks fucking off.
And then
it happens.
coming on the podcast as well. All right, Smac at Smac, Tervo,
Smack.
Don't listen
Smac
to Tervo.
Tolks, I'm not gonna thank you anymore because it's like your 5th time on here.
Damn.
He's a
Tervo.
co-host.
He is a co-host. Tervo, Smack, thanks for coming on. I appreciate you guys taking the time to come here, talk about yourselves, the markets, and everything that's near and dear to you.
A great pleasure.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thanks, fellas.